verses are being horribly taken out of context, especially now with social media, and made into little, pictures with a verse and flowers and, a field and stuff, and then put into a little picture with the verse. But that verse alone by itself, when you read it, it can mean multiple different things out of the context of the full paragraph or the full chapter, right? But the theme of the chapter, that verse taken out by itself, you don't know the theme of the chapter, and you can imagine, 10, 15 different meanings for that specific verse. One, for example, is 2 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, if you guys get mad at that, 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 10, says, if you forgive anyone, I also forgive them. Okay, that taken out of the context, if you forgive anyone, I also forgive them. 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 10. You don't know who's saying it. If you know the Bible, you know who wrote 2 Corinthians, but an unbeliever sees that, they probably assume that's Jesus, that's God, that's, someone speaking, someone important speaking, but it is Paul writing his letter to the church in Corinth, the Corinthians, his second letter to the Corinthians. And he is saying, whoever you forgive, in the full context, I will forgive in the sight of Christ. So we will plead the case to God. Okay? And then the judgment or the decision is based on what God decides and what Jesus decides. But we can't make that decision. We just forgive them. We can forgive them, and then we can plead the case to God to forgive them. But we don't know what's in that person's heart, in his mind, if he is truly repentant. If he is truly repentant, he will be forgiven. But if he is not truly repentant, he won't be. But we're not in his head, and we're not in the Lord's head, so we don't know. But we can forgive him and then plead the case to Christ. Okay, you gotta read the full context in these. Another one is in the Psalms, in Psalm 14, verse 1. There's a line that says, there is no God. So if that taken out, made into a little Instagram photo, there is no God, Psalm 14:1. The Bible says there is no God, but in context, it says the fool says in his heart, there is no God. Okay?